Sometimes it can feel like the noise is louder than what really matters. This is 10 Better Minutes, a podcast that shares recent stories from the world that offer a quieter kind of balance. I am Ian Rhodes, your host, and I am glad you have chosen to spend a few minutes here today. The stories in this episode are gentle reminders that not everything is about struggle or conflict. We will start with a story about Australian philanthropists who donated 10 million Australian dollars to protect thousands of hectares of land and help threatened animals. On June 1st, 2026, Mike and Sue Gregg took a clear, hopeful step for the natural world. They donated 10 million Australian dollars to protect 7,000 hectares of former cattle and logging land, turning it into a protected nature reserve. The work is managed by the Great Southern Land Conservancy, which means the protection does not sit on paper. It becomes habitat, guided day by people who plan for the long run. In that former working landscape, the goal is simple, and it matters deeply. Threatened species need a place to keep living, and native ecosystems need room to recover. So restoration efforts focus on forests and rivers, bringing back the conditions that wildlife relies on. Koalas and greater gliders are named among the species this reserve helps safeguard, and you can almost picture it. Leaves returning, waterways settling into healthier patterns, animals moving through places that are finally given back to them. This kind of progress has a steady feel. It is not loud, it is practical. Someone gives resources, someone manages the land with care. Then time does what it can when it is supported. And for listeners, the quiet lesson is powerful. Conservation is built from choices like this, choices that turn what was once used up into something that can endure. There is something quietly hopeful about turning a tiny, everyday mess into a reason to show up together. Today, we are looking at a Dutch food truck that does exactly that. At festivals in the Netherlands, the Wastebar rolls up with a simple trade. You bring cigarette butts, and you get food and drinks in return. 20 cigarettes can buy food, 10 cigarettes buy drinks, and 15 cigarettes can be swapped for fruits and candies. Even better, the truck does not ignore other plastic. 15 pieces of plastic can pay for a poffertje, that warm, golden Dutch treat. The idea was born in Goa, India, in a campaign in 2019 by Noreen van Holstein. She later launched the Wastebar in 2022 with a foundation she runs alongside Lalita van Lamsveerde. One of the places you can meet them is at the Het Vrij Vesten Liberation Festival in Amsterdam, in Westerpark. And there, something delightful happened. By the end of the day, children had picked up 6,000 cigarette butts. It is the kind of number that stops you for a moment because it is not just about cleaning. It is about learning that cleanup can be part of the fun. The team keeps at it year-round, and their totals are already beyond 500,000 cigarette butts collected. The hopeful part is that the truck treats litter like a problem people can actually tackle. One little exchange and one shared moment at a time. Some wildlife stories begin with a heartbreaking absence and then turn into a steady, practical promise. Today, we are looking at how a carefully planned return can rebuild a missing thread in central Vietnam's forests. First, an international alliance chose 20 Vietnam pheasants with care, selecting birds from European breeding programs for genetic diversity, health, and behavioral strengths. In mid-May, the team begins moving them from Berlin to Vietnam by cargo aircraft, using specially designed transport crates built for safety, good ventilation, and minimal stress. Experts monitor the pheasants continuously during the flight, because this is not a leap of faith, it is a process. Once the birds arrive, the next step is not immediate release. The plan is acclimatization and observation, so the pheasants can adjust to local conditions, and so the team can confirm readiness with clear, calm evidence. And then the work shifts toward foundation building. Protected forest areas are prepared, with local protection strengthened, and threats like illegal hunting are targeted through ongoing vigilance. Over time, the hope is for the birds to form breeding pairs and for locally born, parent-reared generations to take the first steps toward permanence. That is the quiet magic here. Not a sudden rescue miracle, but a patient pathway back into the wild, one observed day at a time. Sometimes the most hopeful progress looks ordinary at first. A city choosing to slow down, listen more, and measure what is happening on the street. In Camden, New Jersey, with about 72,000 residents across the Delaware River from Philadelphia, homicide numbers began to shift in a way many people wanted to see, but not everyone believed was possible. In 2012, Camden recorded 67 homicides. By the end of 2025, the city finished with 12, and it even had its first homicide-free summer in nearly 50 years. The change did not start with slogans. After the Camden County Police Department began launching on May 1st, 2013, policing became more aggressive, including officer-initiated stops. Citizen complaints rose from 35 in 2013 to 65 in 2014. Then, activists and local media used New Jersey's Open Public Records Act to gather data, spotlight rising stop and ticket activity, and publicize use of force indicators. That pressure helped drive a course correction. In spring 2015, training added de-escalation. Police also adopted a more restrictive use of force policy, including a ban on chokeholds and shooting at moving vehicles, and the numbers moved with it. Use of force complaints dropped from 43 in 2015 to 3 in 2018, while stops declined and warnings increased. There are still challenges in Camden, and no one is claiming perfection. But this is a clear reminder that when communities can see the facts, ask better questions, and demand safer methods, trust can grow. You know how music can feel like a promise between strangers, and sometimes that promise gets tested right in the middle of the song. Here is a story about courage, quick listening, and turning a scary moment into something beautiful. During a live performance at Darling Harbour Theatre in Sydney, an orchestra played a score beneath a projection of the film La La Land. The timing had already shifted from 20 minutes to 30 and then to 40, while the professional pianist who should have continued became too sick to go on. In that pause, the conductor, Justin Hurwitz, did something simple and brave. He walked out and asked the audience for a trained pianist who could sight read. Sterling Nasa raised his hand, and he did not come alone. His friend Scarlett helped him get ready, guiding him as he moved toward the electronic piano meant to buy the showtime. After Hurwitz asked follow-up questions and confirmed the moment was real, Sterling sat down and began to play, carrying the performance forward when everyone else had to wait. And then, when the intensity of the program called for a synth solo connected with a John Legend composition, Sterling improvised. He let the sound breathe, weaving something new into the music without breaking its heart. The 2,500-seat hall settled back in and stayed captivated, then stood as the show finished as planned. Backstage, Sterling and Justin Hurwitz shook hands after the final bow, and the lasting feeling was clear. Hope can sound like a choice, made quickly in the middle of uncertainty. As always, I have a wonderful tip for you to help with your mental reset and find a little more ease in the day. Today's tip is about how to bring more warmth into ordinary conversations, because most days do not come with a grand script. They come with the same people, the same lines, the same moments where we could either coast on autopilot or actually connect. Try this simple practice the next time you are speaking with someone. Before you respond, pause for one breath and silently ask, what would feel good to hear right now? It could be something small like, that makes sense, or I am glad you told me, or even, tell me more about that. Then add warmth through your attention. Make your first sentence more welcoming than your correction. If you disagree, keep it gentle and specific. If someone is sharing, reflect one honest detail back to them, as if you are saying, I am here with you, I noticed. Warmth is not about being overly nice. It is about being fully present. Give people your steady tone, your slow curiosity, and one clear piece of kindness. You will feel the difference, and they will too. Well, friends, we have reached the end of this episode of 10 Better Minutes. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me today. I hope it leaves you with something steady to hold on to, even if the world outside still feels loud or heavy. Because somewhere in the mix of daily headlines, there are people making things better in plain human ways. Kindness shows up, decency holds the line, and quiet hope keeps moving forward. This is Ian Rhodes with 10 Better Minutes. Take care, and I will see you tomorrow.